Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chess Wise. Today we are looking at the next topic, that is the theoretical Rook Endgame. We are going to deal with the pawn on the 6th rank today. These positions are theoretically very important as they are very much related to Lucena position and the Philidor position both. So we discussed the Lucena position. There we saw that the pawn was on the 7th rank and the opponent's king was cut off by 1-5. Here the king is underneath the pawn. These positions are also called Philidor position gone bad. Means there is some mistake made in the Philidor position. See, generally in Philidor position the rook has to be active, and by this time the rook starts giving check. So king shouldn't settle on the 6th rank. So what has happened here? Black has done something wrong, because of which his rook c has to be played here. Otherwise there is mating threat by the move rook a8. We know already king d8 here loses to e7 check, k e8 and then rook a8, pawn would queen. So the only way to stop the mate was rook d8, and that is how this position came. So this usually happens when at an earlier stage the rook was like this, something like this, and the black player had to play rook d1 and give check, but he must have played this check. It has happened in my game also once. It was almost drawn position, but my opponent gave check from the side instead of rear. And what happened? My king settled on the 6th rank, and then there is no choice but to play rook d8. Hence, this is called the Philidor position gone bad. Let's see what happens when the rook becomes passive, that is, it is stuck on the last rank and the pawn is on the 6th rank. So we are going to deal with all the pawns, that is the two center pawns, E and F pawns and G and H pawns. So theory is slightly different. Let's understand. White is of course very active with his rook and king both. So white to play and it's a win position. So let's see what is the tactic. Here there are actually two ways of winning. White can start with rook e7 check, king f8, rook f7 check, king g8. And now we see if we play e7, it looks like rook is attacked, but after rook d6 check, the king has to leave the rook and there is problem now. What happens? It will be a drawn position. King e5, rook is attacked, king takes f7, and after kd6 we reach a drawn king and pawn again after the move ke8, when only move ke6 leads to stalemate. White has to play accurately here. White plays the move rook g7. Very simple and effective. Now if the king comes to f8, then e7 check, double attack, and the rook is lost. That too for free, because after ke8, rook g8 check, king d7, then e d8 equal to queen or rook d8 both win. So after rook g7, king has to go to h8, and now white has a very simple technique. The rook has to just move away, keep the king cut, and then king and pawn cannot be held just by the rook has to be given up for the pawn. Some people play the move e7 here, which might work, but it's not technically the best way, because after rook d6, kf7 is the tactical point here. Here black can do the move rook f6 check. And now see suddenly what happened. If king takes f6, this placing of the rook is not good, because after kf6 it's a stalemate. So while converting these positions, rook and against one has to be very careful. Just the rook moves away, 4th or 5th rank, both are good enough. And now what we see, there is no defense to e7. So if I try rook f8 check, king goes to e7, attacks the rook, rook tries to go away, king f7. Now there are two threats, one rook h5 mate. So I have to give check, and after the check, e7, and now the pawn will promote to queen, or there is checkmate with rook on h5. So I am compelled to play rook e7 and white wins. This is one way of winning. Do note another tactical point, because the position is absolutely in the center. White has another winning way. He can just play the rook to h7 and create a mating threat to which absolutely there is no defense. Now see, if I go king f8, then rook h8 mates directly. Okay, and if I move the rook away, then also rook h8 mates. So this rook h7 move is even stronger. Okay, let's take the position one file to the side now. Let's keep this position. Now we have shifted the pawn from e5 to f5. So we are covering the center pawns, the king pawn or the queen pawn and the bishop pawn. So in bishop's pawn case also the position is winning. So we are trying to see when the passive rook is able to hold and when the passive rook is unable to survive. So we see that this position is also losing. White wins here. This white starts more tactically, more forcefully. Rook g7 check. This is the right technique. All moves are being forced. King moves to f8 and king moves to h8. King f8 is the main line. If king goes to h8, then we use the enveloping maneuver. That is, we go and attack from the side. So this is what Nimzowitsch has called enveloping. So rook will come from the side, like see. Rook h7 check, kg8, f7 check, king f8, and the rook gives check from the side. And now after the trade of rooks, takes, and pawn becomes queen, and white will win the game. Rook g7 check, king f8 forced, and here white uses the same technique we saw in the previous position. Rook goes to h7. Very simple and effective. Now, if king goes to g8, we have the same idea. f7 check, king f8, rook h8, as in the previous line. Rook moves, then rook h8 is mate. So king has to go to e8, and now after the trade of rooks, simple rook h8 check, king d7, rook d8, kd8. If we follow the simple principle, king will come ahead and cover the winning square, which wins. But here also f7, ke7, kg7 wins for white. Whenever we take the pawn ahead of the king, we have to be very sure that we are able to control the winning square, or his king is not coming and settling in front of the pawn. So this position is winning for white. So this was all about the middle pawns. Let's see one more thing. If the king was on f8 directly, f8 or e8, if the king was already there, then we would have played the move rook h7. I think you must have understood by now. If the king is on e8 any further, we can just take the rook to the other side and win the game. Same whenever if it is on the other side. Same here. If e instead of e and f file, d and c file are there, rook is passive. Very simple. Rook will go to the other side. So we can play the move king rook a7, threatening rook a8 over here and win the game. See, after kb8, rook b7 check, king here, and just take the rook away, and then d7, kc7, and d8, and white wins. Okay, so this was the theory of pawn on the 6th rank, rook and pawn versus rook when the rook is passive. So in the next lesson we will see what happens with the g and h pawn. So g and h pawn is always a special case in rook endgames. The rook pawn is always a special case. But in rook endgames, the knight pawn also is not winning in many cases. We will see what is the reason in the upcoming lesson. I hope you are enjoying these lessons. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.